a very warm welcome to another instalment from the channel that is Jono's Graveyard Jaunts. Now for today's video, I'm once again in the county of Nottinghamshire, which lies in the East Midlands. Specifically, I shall be visiting the village of Papplewick in Nottinghamshire, where the person who features in today's video was originally from. Now the first map shows where the county of Nottinghamshire sits in relation to the UK, and the second map shows where Papplewick sits in relation to the county of Nottinghamshire itself. Now today's instalment is about a true crime that took place in 1817. In today's video I shall be discussing the extremely brutal nature of the crime, so whilst there are no graphic images in this video, I will be referring to what was found at the horrific crime scene after this heinous act had been committed, so viewer discretion is therefore advised before watching this video. There are a few elements to today's video. Firstly, I shall look at how, when and where the crime occurred, the horrendous nature of the crime itself, the heartbreakingly sad loss of this person who was taken away in such a cruel manner, and the numerous ghostly sightings of this individual that have been seen subsequently since the incident took place. I shall also visit the Hutt Inn where the assailant had visited after he had committed this heinous act. I shall also visit St James Church in Papplewick where this unfortunate victim was laid to rest. Now I did speak to the local vicar of St James Church in Papplewick, and he stated the headstone for this person had been stolen and had not been replaced. And this was because the family did not wish the public to know the exact location in the churchyard where this unfortunate person was finally interred, so we must respect that decision. I shall also visit the actual site where this brutal murder took place, which lies in between a place called Thieves Wood and Ricketts Lane on the east side of A60, where there is an actual murder stone to mark the exact spot. Now the person we shall be discussing in today's video was a lady by the name of Elizabeth Bessie Sheppard. Bessie, as she was known, was 17 years old at the time and from the village of Papplewick. Now she had gone looking for work as a servant in Mansfield and was on her way home when she was attacked. The date was July the 7th, 1817. Elizabeth Sheppard's killer was a man by the name of Charles Rotherham, who was believed to have fought in the Napoleonic War. He had been drinking in the nearby Hutt Pub, which still exists today in Ravenshead. The Hutt Pub lies directly opposite the entrance to Newstead Abbey, which was until 1816 owned by Lord Byron. Now the two bumped into each other by chance on Mansfield Road, now the A60, not far from Harlow Wood. Without any warning at all, Charles Rotherham hit poor Bessie on the left side of her head, with a head stake knocking her completely senseless and sending her spinning to the ground. Finding no money on the girl, he untied her shoes and also stole her yellow umbrella that she was carrying. After dumping her body, the 33-year-old made off with new shoes and distinctive yellow umbrella and returned to the hut where he tried and failed to sell the stolen goods. Now after throwing Bessie's body into the ditch by the roadside, he continued on his journey towards Nottingham, stopping at the 7 Mile Inn to try and sell the shoes. Being unsuccessful, he continued on the 3 Crowns Inn at Redhill, where he did manage to sell the shoes and also left without the umbrella. When her body was found the following day in a ditch, it was described as being in a dreadful state, with her brain protruding from her skull, one eye knocked out of the socket. Rotherham was quickly pursued and arrested by Constable Benjamin Barnes. He was found loitering on a canal bridge in Loughborough, Leicestershire. Now Rotherham allegedly said, and I quote, "I'm guilty of the crime and must suffer the course of the law," end quote. He was taken to the scene of the crime and showed the officer the stake he had used, but could offer no explanation as to why he had done it. But his clothes did show signs of bloodstains. So this is the very stunning Hutt Pub. The date's from the 14th century and it's a stunning building, as you can see. And what I'll do is I'll pan around, and you've got the entrance, sorry for the traffic noise, to Newstead Abbey just there. Now apparently Lord Byron lived in Newstead Abbey up until 1816, and as you know, quite used to describe him was mad, bad and dangerous to know. So this was the pub that, now there are differing accounts. Charles Rotherham, the assailant who murdered Elizabeth Sheppard, consumed 7 pints here. One article says before he committed the heinous act, another one says after, but this is basically, as you can see, it's absolutely an amazing building. So if you are in this neck of the woods, it's on the A60, definitely pop in and pay it a visit. It's just a beautiful period building. At his trial he entered a plea of guilty, but for some reason the judge persuaded him to change his plea to not guilty. The case was heard with, and I quote, a considerable number of people called, end quote, including Bessie's mother. Now the newspapers reported him as being, and I quote, resigned to his fate. Right up until the time of his death, Rotherham said he had no idea as to what made him commit such a heinous crime. He was visited by the Reverend Dr. Wood prior to the hanging and seemed to show remorse for what had happened. His fate, however, was sealed and he was hanged on the 28th of July 1817 in Nottingham. Now some 20,000 people attended the execution, which took place at Gallows Hill, which incidentally is where the entrance to Church Rock Cemetery now is, literally just right outside of the main gates to the cemetery. Now after the public execution, his body was given over to a surgeon for dissection and was then interred at St Mary's Churchyard in Nottingham. A penny dreadful was produced telling the whole story in much more detail, and a copy is in Mansfield Museum. So what's a penny dreadful? Penny dreadfuls were cheap popular serial literature produced during the 19th century in the United Kingdom. Now the pejorative term roughly is interchangeable with penny horrible, penny awful and penny blood. The term typically referred to a story published in weekly parts of 8 to 16 pages, each costing 1 penny. Now the subject matter of these stories was typically sensational, focusing on the exploits of the detectives, criminals or supernatural entities. First published in 1830, penny dreadfuls featured characters such as Sweeney Todd, Dick Turpin, Varney the Vampire and Spring-Heeled Jack. Now Elizabeth Bessie Sheppard was buried on the 10th of July 1817 at St James's Parish Church, Papplewick. This is the incredibly peaceful churchyard of St James in Papplewick, where poor Elizabeth Bessie Sheppard was laid to rest after losing her life at just 17 years old to Charles Rotherham. As I say, there was a memorial stone erected that was stolen subsequently in 1988 and it hasn't been replaced, so sadly we can't actually go to her grave directly and pay respects, but we do know she's in this churchyard here somewhere. God bless Elizabeth. It's an absolute tragedy what happened to you, robbed of your life at 17 years old by Charles Rotherham. I hope you're resting peacefully. God bless. Shocked locals were so appalled by the crime that they clubbed together to have a murder stone erected in 1819 at the spot where Bessie died. Now, with the aftermath of the death of Bessie, this led to lots and lots of paranormal sightings. Now, such stones, murder stones, were popular in the 1800s and were put in place at the sites of infamous murders to commemorate the victim, or sometimes warn others about the consequences of committing murder. Bessie's memorial, believed to be the only one of its kind in Nottinghamshire, has remained there ever since. It has been restored over the years and a slate plaque with the inscription was added so it could still be read as the stone weathered. There have been several reports of eerie goings on in the vicinity. Legend has it that if the stone is disturbed, the ghost of the dead girl will appear. The stone was moved back a few yards when the road was widened in the 1930s, prompting stories of a ghostly apparition appearing. The actual murder stone where poor Elizabeth Bessie Sheppard lost her life at 17 years old, and it's literally just next to the busy A60. You can hear the traffic. Busy A60, guys, where Elizabeth Sheppard's ghost has been seen on many occasions. If you do want to find the murder stone, look for that sign there. Welcome to Ashfield, and it's the opposite side of the carriageway, and you're just walking up on the opposite side, and here's the stone down here. You see, it's a very, very busy road, but she's seen Elizabeth's ghost spirit's been seen lots and lots of times on lots of different occasions by lots of different people. So this is the A60 then, heading that way and going up that way. We're going towards Mansfield. After the stone was hit by a passing car in the 1950s, a couple driving to Mansfield claimed to have seen a ghostly white figure hovering above the memorial. Now, the strangest tale of all, though, happened in 1988 when vandals struck in St James's churchyard and Bessie's headstone went missing. In a bid to track it down, the Nottingham Evening Post was set to run an appeal, but landed an even better story. As two police officers posted next to the stone for the paper's photographer, one policeman felt an overwhelming urge to touch the stone, and all at once felt compelled to go to the churchyard, where he found the missing gravestone buried in vegetation 200 foot away from Bessie's grave. Now, one man commented that he stopped for a wee in the shrubbery nearby in the early hours after a long drive when he was startled. I glimpsed of a woman with a ballroom dress on gliding through the trees, and I never drove off so fast in my life, he said. Another recalled passing the site on his motorbike on his way home to Oxton. He said, I got the frightening sensation as if I was carrying a passenger and it didn't leave until I got home. I'd never heard about this murder stone. Now, motorists have stopped to give a lift to a girl who then disappeared, and she has been seen many times by staff on the wards of old Harlow Wood Hospital. That concludes today's video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed today's instalment of Jono's Graveyard Jaunts, can I please ask you to like, subscribe and comment to the channel.